This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, Israel shuts the Rafah crossing, turning away aid convoys trying to reach Gaza after the ceasefire. The blockage comes after Israel carried out a series of strikes after accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire. Bolivia sees a historic power shift. Senator Rodrigo Paz wins the presidential runoff. The centrist politician's victory comes after 2 decades of leftist rule. Caribbean tensions escalate. Colombian President Gustavo Petro accuses the U.S. of murdering an innocent fisherman. Trump, on the other hand, calls Petro an illegal drug leader, punishing Colombia by cutting off aid. In the United Kingdom, thousands rally in London against Prime Minister Keir Starmer's mandatory digital ID plan, calling it an invasion of data privacy. U.S. cyber attacks on China. Beijing accuses Washington of hacking its National Time Center, carrying out large-scale cyber attacks that could have sparked power blackouts on financial chaos. Anti-war rally in Vienna continues. Protesters march to denounce EU militarization and sanctions against Russia. In France, a shocking daytime heist. Armed thieves raid the Louvre Museum, escalating with pieces of priceless jewelry. And in the world of sports, Kylian Mbappé scores the winning goal as Real Madrid beats 9-man Getafe to reclaim the top of La Liga. Prince Tripoli, Newsline World starts now. China is accusing the United States of launching a sophisticated cyber attack on one of its most critical systems, the country's National Time Service Center. Beijing warns it could have triggered nationwide blackouts or financial chaos. Carla Abiliana files this report.
China's Ministry of State Security says the U.S. National Security Agency has been hacking National Time Server Center from March 25, 2022 to June 2024. The facility is responsible for maintaining Beijing's official time standard used across communications, finance, power, and defense. Investigators alleged that NSA hackers infiltrated the system by using malware planted through staff phones and encrypted servers to conceal the origin of the operation.
窃取了多名工作人员手机的一些资料，同时通过远控也获取了多名工作人员合法登录的这个权限，渗透到我们国家受试中心的内网。第二个阶段呢，通过利用高强度的武器平台，组合了大量的这个恶意代码间谍软件等等网络攻击武器，对国家受试中心的专网信息系统实施高强度的这样一个渗透和攻击，对国家受试中心的重要信息系统的资料包括信息和数据实施了窃取。
Chinese officials warned that operation could have disrupted time synchronization across the country, affecting air traffic, energy grids, and even satellite launches. The Xi'an Time Center generates Beijing's national clock signal, a vital reference point for thousands of systems. Chinese state media say authorities are now treating cybersecurity as a national defense priority and has upgraded its defenses, warning Washington against what it called a digital war. For God in my beloved Philippines, Carla Abiliana, SMNI News.
In Paris, a daring heist at one of the world's most famous museums. Armed thieves stormed the Louvre in broad daylight and escaped with pieces of historic jewelry once belonged to Napoleon and Empress Eugenie. The Louvre is one lockdown after Paris police sealed off the area Sunday after what authorities called a major robbery. Investigators say the suspects were armed and used chainsaws and a scooter. The thieves broke into the museum through a front entrance just after 9:30 in the morning local time. They made their way to the Apollo Gallery, home to France's crown jewels, before fleeing the scene. 9 items were taken, including a tiara, necklace, and brooch. One piece was after found outside and damaged. Investigators are ongoing, and authorities haven't ruled out the possibility the thieves have inside help. Centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz won Bolivia's presidential election on Sunday, according to preliminary results, ending 2 decades of leftist rule under the Movement for Socialism Party. Let's hear the updates from Jane Cudnita.
Polling stations across Bolivia opened early on Sunday as nearly 8 million voters cast their ballots in a decisive presidential runoff between Senator Rodrigo Paz of the Christian Democratic Party, or PDC, and former President Jorge Tuto Quiroga of the Liberty and Democracy Alliance, or Libre. By evening, preliminary results showed a clear victory for Paz, who secured more than 54% of the vote compared to 45% for Quiroga. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal described the trend as irreversible. In La Paz, Quiroga, the conservative former leader who governed from 2001 to 2002, voted surrounded by reporters and urged Bolivians to embrace change through free trade and closer ties with Western allies. His defeat marks another setback for Bolivia's traditional right. In Tarija, Paz cast his vote early, thanking citizens for their participation and calling the election a triumph for democracy. Once considered an underdog, the 58-year-old senator's message of moderation and gradual reform resonated with voters disillusioned by years of political turbulence. Abroad, large Bolivian communities in Buenos Aires and Sao Paulo took part in the vote, with long lines forming at consulates. Voters abroad echoed calls for transparency, reform, and renewed stability at home. Paz's victory reflects widespread frustration with the economic crisis and fatigue over nearly 20 years of dominance by the Movement Toward Socialism, or MAS, the leftist party founded by former President Evo Morales. He has pledged to end Bolivia's fixed exchange rate, phase out fuel subsidies, and gradually reduce public spending, reforms aimed at stabilizing the economy without triggering inflation or social unrest. Paz's more cautious approach appealed to working class and rural voters wary of drastic change but eager for accountability. His win ushers in a new era in Bolivian politics, one that promises reform but faces deep challenges. His government will now have to steer the country through economic recovery while managing expectations from a divided electorate. This has been Jane Cudnita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
In Kenya, thousands have turned out to bid farewell to longtime opposition leader and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The man many called Baba or Father is being remembered as a symbol of Kenya's decades-long struggle for democracy. Paul Montibon has a story.
The Kisumu City Stadium was filled with thousands of mourners on Saturday. Many were seen waving tree branches, a traditional gesture of grief, as Raila Odinga's flag-draped casket arrived under tight military guard. Many also wept and cheered as the coffin was carried through the stadium before being airlifted by helicopter. The ceremony followed an emotional farewell in Kasarani Stadium on Thursday, where clashes broke out between police and mourners. Reports say that during a public viewing of Odinga's body, hundreds stormed the pitch, trying to get closer to the viewing. In an effort to regain control, police fired tear gas and live rounds, triggering panic as people rushed towards the exits. The chaos left 4 people dead and several others injured. 80-year-old Odinga, affectionately known as Baba, or Father by his supporters, died on Wednesday while receiving medical treatment in Kerala, India. Odinga died Wednesday, October 15th. According to reports, He collapsed while walking with family members and his personal doctor. To recall, President William Ruto declared 7 days of national mourning and announced that Odinga will receive a state funeral. Odinga, the son of Kenya's first vice president, was a central figure in country's political history, spending years in prison and exiled during his fight for multi-party democracy. He later served as prime minister from 2008 to 2013 under a power-sharing deal following post-election unrest. For many Kenyans, Odinga's death marks the end of an era, closing a chapter on a lifetime spent fighting for democracy and social justice. But even in his passing, Odinga's ideals continue to inspire generations determined to carry his legacy forward. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montemon, SM9 News.
A giant blue whale was found stranded on a beach in Contramirante Villar Province, northern Peru, alarming residents, tourists, and environmental experts. This story from Erica Rio.
Over the weekend, a blue whale's massive body was seen lying along the shore as marine biologists from the Organization for Research and Conservation of Aquatic Animals, or ORCA, measured the 23-meter-long specimen. Residents and visitors gathered at the site, many expressing both awe and sadness at the sight of the world's largest mammal.
Es algo un poco penoso ver, ¿no?, semejante animal tan hermoso que debería estar, como dice, haciendo su hábitat normal, ¿no? Pero es algo muy impresionante y a la vez triste.
Local authorities and specialists from the Peruvian Sea Institute, Mbappé, took samples from the carcass to determine the cause of death. Experts say blue whales rarely migrate through northern Peru, making the sighting and stranding unusual.
Es una ballena azul, ¿no? Es una subadulta, básicamente. Si encontramos de la especie de las más grandes, esta mide 23 metros, normalmente llegan hasta los 30 metros cuando son adultas. Sin embargo, aquí en Perú tenemos características de algunas subespecies más pequeñas, lo cual, de ser así, nos indicaría que es un animal que se ha desviado de la ruta normal de migración.
ORCA said the whale showed signs of malnutrition, possibly from traveling unusual long distance or from chronic illness and exposure to pollutants. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility of a collision with fishing vessels, a common threat to whales along busy coastal roads. The blue whale is considered an endangered species, with population slowly recovering since the global ban on commercial whaling in 1966. The incident comes during the humpback whale migration season, which runs from July to October. Local authorities have urged the public to avoid approaching the carcass while an investigation is underway. The whale's remains will be buried to prevent environmental contamination. This has been Erica Rio, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, Caribbean tensions escalate. Colombian President Gustavo Petro accuses the U.S. of murdering an innocent fisherman. Trump, on the other hand, calls Petro an illegal drug leader, punishing Colombia by cutting off aid. And anti-war rally in Vienna continues. Protesters march to denounce EU militarization and sanctions against Russia. More news when Newsline World returns.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
And we're back. Colombian President Gustavo Petro expressed outrage over reports that missiles launched by the United States in the Caribbean Sea have killed fishermen, including possibly a Colombian national. More of this from Jomel Santos.
President Gustavo Petro said a missile reportedly struck a stationary fishing boat in Caribbean waters, where a Colombian fisherman may have been on board. He said reports that 2 fishermen from Trinidad and Tobago had already been killed by similar strikes, calling the incidents a war crime.
Vi un video de una lancha que no se estaba moviendo con los motores arriba, en estado quieto, y cayó un misil encima. Y no sabemos exactamente el punto, pero parece que había un pescador colombiano ahí, ojo general, y porque ya sabemos que 2 pescadores en Trinidad, Tobago, fueron asesinados por un misil. Esto es un crimen de guerra. Esta es una agresión internacional contra una zona de paz, el Caribe.
Petro condemned what he described as an attack on civilian lives and livelihoods, warning that fishing communities across the Caribbean face grave danger amid military operations in the area. He urged international organizations to take immediate action to prevent further loss of life. The president appealed to Caribbean governments and human rights groups to closely monitor the region and set up alert systems to protect vulnerable fishermen who depend on the sea for survival.
Ayúdenos a vigilar y a poner las alertas en el Caribe, incluso a esos países islas que no han desarrollado sistemas y que caribeños jóvenes ya han muerto bajo misiles como en Gaza.
Petro's warning highlights growing fears among coastal communities as families of fishermen across the Caribbean demands answers and accountability for death caused by missile strikes in what he called a zone of peace. Reporting for Newsline World, Zomo Santos, SMNI News.
President Donald Trump announced that the United States will slash aid to Colombia and impose tariffs on its exports, accusing President Gustavo Petro of failing to combat drug production. Trump said Colombia has become a drug manufacturing machine and warned Petro to close up drug operations or face U.S. sanction. He called Petro an illegal drug leader and a lunatic, saying his administration does nothing to stop narcotics. The White House confirmed the move follows a series of U.S. strikes in the Caribbean targeting drug smuggling vessels, one allegedly linked to Colombian rebels. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the latest strike hit a boat carrying substantial amounts of narcotics in response to Petro's earlier statements that it was carrying innocent fishermen. Colombia, once Washington's closest ally in the region, received about $230 million in U.S. aid last year, down from over $700 million in previous years. Trump said all payments and subsidies will no longer be made to Colombia, accusing the country of taking advantage of American support. The decision marks a sharp escalation in tensions between Washington and Bogota, threatening to upend decades of security cooperation in the U.S.-backed war on drugs. In Austria, thousands of demonstrators marched through Vienna, calling for peace and denouncing what they see as the European Union's growing militarization amid the war in Ukraine. More of this from Franco Baranda.
Thousands of people filled the streets of Vienna on Saturday, demanding peace and condemning what they describe as the European Union's path to war. Demonstrators carried banners reading "Create peace without weapons" and "Stop NATO and EU warmongering," accusing European leaders of spending too much on arms while neglecting social programs. The rally, held under the slogan "Peace and Neutrality," urged Austria to uphold its long-standing policy of neutrality, withdraw from EU defense initiatives, and end sanctions on Russia and Belarus.
Das heißt, Schluss mit den Sanktionen gegen Russland, Schluss mit den Sanktionen gegen Belarus und selbstverständlich keine Durchfahrten, keine Waffenlieferungen mehr durch Österreich in Richtung Ukraine.
Organizers also criticized Austria's participation in the European Sky Shield Initiative, a joint air defense project involving 24 countries. They say this undermines Austria's non-aligned status.
Wir sollten eigentlich Diplomatie führen und nicht als Sky Shield und dort einmischen und da einmischen. Das ist nicht meins. Und deswegen bin ich heute hier.
Some warn that Europe is sliding toward another large-scale conflict. The Austrian government has defended its cooperation in European defense projects, insisting it remains committed to neutrality while enhancing the country's security. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has pushed for more projects to revive the Pasig River and restore key Manila landmarks, while also promoting sustainable modes of transportation for the public. Cresseling Catarong reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. announced additional projects aimed at revitalizing the Pasig River and key landmarks in Manila. Speaking at the launch of Phase 4 of the Pasig Bigyang Buhay Muli Urban Development Project at the Metropolitan Theater in Manila, Marcos emphasized the government's commitment to building a cleaner, greener, and more connected capital.
Every time we gather here by the Pasig River, we are reminded that progress does not always mean building something new. Sometimes, Progress means bringing something beautiful back to life.
Among the key initiatives is the recent launch of the MB Dalare, the country's first locally designed and fabricated electric ferry developed by the Department of Science and Technology or DOST. The ferry can operate for up to 3 hours continuously along the Pasig River and is expected to be fully operational by November. The president also highlighted the pilot use of ClearBot, a solar-powered AI-enabled robotic vessel designed to autonomously collect floating trash and invasive plants from the river and surrounding esteros. The initiative is being explored in partnership with the Asian Development Bank and Clear Robotics. Marcos said he recently met with Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso to discuss projects that will further transform the city. These include the conversion of the Intramuros golf course into an open green space, the rehabilitation of Plaza Calderon, a cultural landmark near the Pasig River, and the enhancement of the Loton underpass to improve pedestrian access to the riverside esplanade. Marcos credited the collaboration between the national government, local governments, private sector, and communities for the progress made so far, while also promoting sustainable modes of transportation for the public.
Only 7 months after opening Phase 3 along Intramuros, we now see Phase 4 of the Pasig River Urban Development Project. This 530-meter stretch behind Manila Central Post Office all the way to Arroceros Park is being reborn into a vibrant riverside space featuring walkways, bike lanes, and commercial areas.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Kerseline Catarong, SMNI News.
In a stunning fusion of fashion and culture, Tokyo played host to global designers who lit up the runway with culture masterpieces from every corner of the world, showcasing creativity that knows no borders. Hector Kikuzaki has a story.
The Japan Couture Fashion World gathered top designers from around the globe, including Dubai, Los Angeles, Japan, and the Philippines, to showcase their world-class creations on one stage. At the Tokyo American Club in Minato-ku, the runway came alive with color and craftsmanship as top designers from Japan, Dubai, Los Angeles, and the Philippines unveiled their latest couture pieces. The event kicked off at 4 p.m. in celebration of global artistry and elegance in couture fashion. The Japan Couture Fashion World was organized by Yuna Hattori, a Nagoya-based fashion designer and CEO of Toll & Mood Company. Her goal to create a global platform where artists can share their work, exchange cultural ideas, and celebrate diversity through design. The event was produced and organized with a vision of uniting talented designers and showcasing their creations on global runways such as Paris, Dubai, New York, and Milan, while also providing opportunities for aspiring models to break into the international fashion scene. Hattori, known for blending modern design with traditional Japanese elegance, has also presented her work on international stages, including the World Expo Osaka 2025 under the Pakistan Pavilion in celebration of Pakistan's Independence Day. Hattori plans to bring her newest collection to the Philippines next year, alongside other international designers, as part of her effort to expand Japan's presence on the global runway. In the coming years, more Japanese designers are expected to make waves on the international fashion scene. Among them, Yuna Hattori has also made a remarkable impact with her distinctive creations that beautifully blend modern design with the elegance of traditional Japanese kimono. Hector Kikuzaki, your Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
When we come back, Israel shuts the Rafah crossing, turning away aid convoys trying to reach Gaza after the ceasefire. The blockage comes after Israel carried out a series of strikes after accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire. In the United Kingdom, thousands rally in London against Prime Minister Keir Starmer's mandatory digital ID plan, calling it an invasion of data privacy. And in the world of sports, Kylian Mbappé scores the winning goal as Real Madrid beats 9-man Getafe to reclaim the top of La Liga. More news after the break.
Isa Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito, pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, saka palalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis to! Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Hoy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Eto ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Eto naman sayo.
Kuya, yung
eto
share ko!
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila, easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
In the Middle East, a major humanitarian setback after the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. 8 convoys trying to reach Gaza were turned away after Israel shut down the Rafah crossing with Egypt. As you can see, these are borders trucking reportedly loaded with humanitarian supplies turning back after being denied entry. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that the Rafah crossing, Gaza's main gateway for aid, would remain closed until further notice. He said the crossing would only reopen once Hamas handed over the remains of Israeli hostages. Egypt's Red Crescent said it remains ready to resume the flow of food and medical aid into Gaza as soon as the crossing reopens. The closure comes following Israeli strikes on what it calls dozens of terror targets in Gaza on Sunday. Israeli defense forces that these targets include weapons storage facilities, firing posts, terrorist cells, and additional Hamas terror infrastructure. The strikes were prompted by an alleged attack against IDF troops operating in the Gaza city of Rafah. Israel also accused Hamas of blatantly violating the ceasefire, to which Hamas denied. Thousands of protesters took to the streets in Los Angeles and other major U.S. cities over the weekend as part of the nationwide No Kings movement against President Donald Trump's policies amid ongoing government shutdown. Let's hear more from Eve Buenafé.
The No Kings movement, a coalition of groups opposing what they call abuses of powers and threats to democracy, staged over 2,600 demonstrations nationwide. In downtown Los Angeles, mounted police are seen charging into crowds and using batons to disperse demonstrators. Protesters held placards reading "Defend Democracy, It's Time for a General Strike," and "No Kings, No Fascists in America." Tens of thousands gathered at Grand Park beneath a 20-foot inflatable Trump baby blimp waving American and Mexican flags.
It's very important to show that the majority of people do not support what's going on, and we're here to raise our voices and say that we are going to take our country back and we're just not going to allow it to happen. And we do love America, yes, and we want to save it.
Massive rallies were also held in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and Boston, where crowds chanted "No ICE, no KKK, no fascists." In Washington, D.C., thousands filled Pennsylvania Avenue outside the U.S. Capitol. Senator Bernie Sanders joined demonstrators, calling the protest a defense of democracy and a warning against authoritarianism.
In 1776, with extraordinary courage, the founders of our country announced to the world that they would no longer be ruled by the King of England. A king who had absolute power over their lives. They demanded freedom. And to bring that about, they fought a bloody war against the British Empire and the most powerful military in the world. tens of thousands of Americans died in that 8-year war, but our forefathers fought on and they won. Today, in the year 2025, in this dangerous moment in American history, our message is exactly the same. No, President Trump, we don't want you or any other king to rule us. Thank you very much, but we will maintain our democratic form of society. We will not move toward authoritarianism in America. We, the people, will rule.
Related demonstrations were also held overseas. In Madrid, protesters chanted, "This is what democracy looks like," carrying signs that read, "Foreigners against Trump and defend democracy." Organizers said Europeans must also stand up for democratic values as the U.S. faces political uncertainty. While authorities reported most gatherings were peaceful, scattered clashes erupted in Los Angeles and other cities. The No Kings movement has promised to continue its demonstrations until, in their words, power returns to the people. Eve Buenafe, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
In the United Kingdom, protesters filled the streets of London, rallying against Prime Minister Keir Starmer's proposal for a mandatory digital ID system. This comes amid criticism that the proposal is an invasion of privacy and a step toward government overreach. This report.
Thousands marched through central London on Saturday, denouncing the government's plan to roll out mandatory digital IDs by 2029. Police were seen blocking roads and detaining demonstrators as crowds chanted and held signs reading "No to Digital ID." Some protesters even carried an effigy of Prime Minister Keir Starmer, accusing him of forcing the policy without public consent.
We're here, like everyone else, to protest the digital ID that Keir Starmer has introduced without giving us any kind of option, no kind of referendum, no choice, just forced upon everyone.
I think it's maybe part of a bigger project with all Starmer, Macron, the guy Trudeau, they all come and like a fanfare, yeah, we're here for the people, blah, blah, blah. And when they get into power, it's completely different. They don't do anything for the people.
Well, what's true to say is there's a war going on here. There's an internal war between two views of society, the internationalist one and the nationalist one. Who will win? I don't know.
The rally was organized by Mass Non-Compliance, a group calling on Britons to reject the system. They warned that accepting digital IDs could mean, quote, "the last real choice you ever made."
Because digital ID is asking for digital slavery, basically, and I don't think the government have the right to have that level of control over us.
People think that they can trust the people in power, so this might not seem like such a big deal at the moment, but, you know, take any other change to what we've already got and you're completely controlled with a digital ID.
Critics, including veteran Conservative MP David Davis, say the plan could erode civil liberties and allow authorities to track citizens' movements. Downing Street, however, insists the IDs are a secure and modern solution, not a surveillance tool. The proposed digital ID would be required for anyone working in the UK as part of what the government calls a modernization effort to help fight illegal migration and improve public record keeping.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says he is prepared for talks with Russia, but only once a ceasefire is in place along the front line. Joy Tabanao has the story.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky told NBC's Meet the Press that he's ready to engage in negotiations with Russia in any formal, bilateral or trilateral, but only after a ceasefire along the current front lines. Russia Meanwhile, says any ceasefire requires Ukraine to withdraw forces from the new Russian-controlled regions, stop mobilization, and halt foreign military aid, while recognizing Russia's new borders and abandoning NATO membership plans. Russian President Putin has also indicated that Kyiv would only meet Zelensky after a peace treaty is ready. Meanwhile, Zelensky also confirmed that the U.S. has not yet agreed to provide long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles to Kyiv, and that Ukraine will not surrender additional territory under pressure from missiles or drones. But U.S. President Donald Trump recently told Fox News that Ukraine was bound to make concessions, including giving up some territory. As for the Tomahawks, Trump emphasized that Washington cannot hand over its entire arsenal to support Kyiv, adding that they had already provided a lot of weaponry during the conflict. Zelensky met with Trump at the White House recently, only to leave empty-handed from the U.S. president indicated that he does not intend to provide Tomahawks to Kyiv for now. Trump is set to meet with Putin in Hungary in the coming weeks to discuss how to end the war in Ukraine. The Russian president has repeatedly said that supplying U.S.-made Tomahawks to Kyiv would severely undermine the prospects of a peaceful settlement. Joy now, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Thousands of infectious disease experts from around the world have converged at the Georgia World Congress Center for ID Week 2025, a premier medical conference tackling urgent public health challenges from vaccine hesitancy and emerging pathogens to the role of artificial intelligence in modern healthcare. Major Valdez tells us more.
The annual Infectious Disease Week was held this week in Atlanta, Georgia, a prestigious gathering of experts in the field of infectious diseases. The conference aims to address current challenges in healthcare, including the rise of vaccine hesitancy, dwindling research funding, and the spread of misinformation. Thousands of experts, including doctors, researchers, pharmacists, and medical students gathered at the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta to participate in Infectious Disease Week 2025, which began on the 19th of October and will conclude on the 22nd of October. It is spearheaded by 6 major organizations in the United States, including the Infectious Diseases Society of America, the HIV Medicine Association, and the Pediatric Infectious Diseases Society. According to Dr. Yohei Doi, chair of ID Week, this year's highlights include the integration of artificial intelligence in healthcare and a strengthening of biopreparedness or readiness against emerging infectious disease threats. More than 250 sessions and activities are scheduled across a 4-day conference, covering topics such as emerging infectious diseases, antimicrobial stewardship, AI integration in clinical practice, and sustainable and equitable patient care. For those just beginning their careers, the Next Gen ID launch and the Bug Grow program were launched. Initiatives designed to promote mentorship, networking, and guidance for students, residents, and fellows. Discussions will also be held with experts from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is also based in Atlanta, earning the city its reputation as a mecca of public health in the United States. However, Dr. Doi acknowledged that there are certain limitations due to the looming government shutdown, which may affect the attendance of some government officials. Infectious Disease Week remains a vital platform for collaboration among experts to strengthen strategies in combating diseases that continue to pose a threat to public health. Major Valdez, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubhang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/4 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, sa kapalalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman diyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Maging alerto at handa tuwing may bagyo. Upang manatiling ligtas, narito ang ilang mahahalagang paalala. Manatili sa loob ng bahay. Iwasan ang paglabas, lalo na kung malakas ang ulan at hangin. Mag-imbak ng pagkain at malinis na tubig. Maghanda ng emergency kit. Manatiling updated sa lagay ng panahon. Maghanda ng mga flashlight at extra baterya. Panatilihing fully charged ang iyong cellphone. I-secure ang mahahalagang dokumento sa waterproof na lalagyan. Patayin ang kuryente, gas at tubig kung may banta ng pagbaha. Alamin ang iyong local emergency hotlines. Putulin o tapyasan ang mga sanga ng puno na maaaring mabuwal sa malakas na ulan at hangin. Lumikas agad kung inabisuhan ng mga otoridad. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa panahon ng kalamidad. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Maging ligtas, maging handa. Narito ang ilang paalala kung sakaling tumama ang lindol. Maghanda ng emergency kits na may lamang flashlight, pito, first aid kit, tubig at pagkain. Alamin ang emergency exits sa inyong bahay, paaralan o opisina. Habang lumilindol, magtago sa ilalim ng matibay na lamesa upang maprotektahan ang sarili sa mga nahuhulog na bagay. Lumayo sa mga bintana at mabibigat na gamit na maaaring mahulog. Kung ikaw ay nasa labas, lumayo sa mga gusali, puno o poste na maaaring matumba. Kung ikaw ay nagmamaneho, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan at lumabas. Pagkatapos ng lindol, gamitin ang hagdan sa paglabas ng gusali at huwag gumamit ng elevator. Maging alerto sa aftershocks at manatili sa open space kung kinakailangan. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Marking World Bread Day, bakers and volunteers in Sao Paulo distributed 20,000 bread rolls for free, a long-running tradition that highlights the city's spirit of compassion and community. Daniela Polite tells us more.
In Brazil, thousands of Sao Paulo residents were treated a warm breakfast and a message of solidarity as 20,000 bread rolls were distributed for free along Avenida Paulista to mark World Bread Day. The initiative, organized by Sampapao, the association representing the city's bakery and confectionery sector, transformed one of Brazil's busiest avenues into a symbol of generosity and community spirit. Dozens of volunteers began preparations early in the morning, assembling breakfast kits that included bread, ham, chocolate milk, and a drink. A complete meal for passers-by heading to work or school. According to Huey Gonçalves, president of Sampapao, they've been doing this for more than 30 years to keep this tradition alive. 20 bakeries joined forces for the event, each donating 500 loaves to reach the impressive total of 20,000 pieces, a gesture that carried both symbolic and practical meaning. For many, the free bread offered more than nourishment. It represented care, unity, and hope amid rising food insecurity in Brazil, where 1 in 4 households struggles to access adequate food, according to 2024 government data. Now a fixture in Sao Paulo's official city calendar, the World Bread Day celebration continues to grow in both size and spirit, proving that even a simple loaf of bread can bring people together and make a difference. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
Sabrina Carpenter lit up the October 18 Saturday Night Live episode as host and musical guest, performing her hit Man-Child and parodying Taylor Swift's The Fate of Ophelia in the cold open. In other showbiz news, Kim Kardashian captivated the fashion world by donning a full face mask as part of her avant-garde ensemble from Margiela's collection. Eugene Echo has more of this.
Saturday Night Live's last episode saw Sabrina Carpenter take center stage. As musical guest, she performed Man-Child in a bedroom set style piece, singing into a hairbrush and clad in SNL-themed pajamas. But the spotlight began before that. In the cold open, the show revived the recurring Domingo sketch, this time featuring Carpenter and friends singing a parody version of Taylor Swift's The Fate of Ophelia, followed by riffs on Lady Gaga's Abracadabra and Alex Warren's Ordinary. In her opening monologue, Carpenter addressed public perceptions of her image with humor and self-awareness. She also offered a light-hearted explanation of the recent controversy surrounding her album cover, sharing a behind-the-scenes anecdote to put it into context. Fans responded enthusiastically to Carpenter's SNL appearance, making her not just a rising pop star, but also praising her comedic timing, stage presence, and ability to blend music with humor. Meanwhile, Kim Kardashian's appearance at the star-studded event was nothing short of dramatic. The reality star wore a nude-toned strapless corset gown featuring a sharply cinched waist and flowing bell sleeves. The piece was a sheer, nude-colored mask that covered her entire face and head, secured by a silver and emerald choker necklace. This daring choice drew immediate comparisons to her 2021 Met Gala look, where she also concealed her face, sparking widespread discussion. Despite the mask obscuring her features, Kardashian ensured her signature glam was intact beneath. She revealed to Variety that she had flown in her longtime makeup artist, Mario Di Divanovich, from New York for the occasion, only to add the mask as a last-minute decision. The ensemble was met with mixed reactions from fans and fashion enthusiasts. Some lauded her boldness and commitment to high fashion, while others accused her of mimicking the mask aesthetic popularized by her ex-husband Kanye West during his Donda era. But despite the public's comments, Kim remains a fashion icon who's consistent in pushing her red carpet boundaries. This has been Regine Echo bringing the latest show buzz.
In sports, England secured a hard-fought 4-1 win over India in indoor, clinching a semi-final spot and marking their most impressive performance under coach Charlotte Edwards. Meanwhile, Kylian Mbappé continued his brilliant form, scoring the only goal as Real Madrid edged past 9-man Getafe to reclaim the top spot La Liga. Here's Carlo de la Peña for the latest updates.
Two huge wins for England and Real Madrid tonight. One team heading to the semis, the other reclaiming the La Liga crown. England defended their total of 288 after Heather Knight smashed a brilliant 109 from just 86 balls her first century of the tournament. Amy Jones added 50, helping the visitors post a strong total on a flat pitch. India looked on course for victory as Smriti Mandana led the chase with an impressive 88, sharing a 125-run partnership with captain Harmanpreet Kaur. But when Mandana fell, England took control. Sophie Ecclestone struck at the right moments, and England's fielding held firm under pressure. Sophia Dunkley, Alice Capsey, and Emma Lamb all took crucial catches in the final overs to deny India a comeback. The win keeps England unbeaten and boosts confidence ahead of a heavyweight semi-final clash with defending champions Australia. Meanwhile, Kylian Mbappé broke the deadlock in the 80th minute, finishing coolly from Arda Güler's through-ball moments after Getafe's Alan Nyam was sent off just 44 seconds into his appearance for elbowing Vinicius Jr. Getafe's troubles worsened when Alex Sanchez received a second yellow card later on, leaving them with 9 players. Despite that, they almost grabbed a stoppage-time equalizer, but Thibaut Courtois made a vital save to preserve the win. Goalkeeper David Soria kept Getafe alive for much of the match, denying Mbappé, David Alaba, and Federico Valverde with key stops. Before kickoff, both sides also stood still for 15 seconds as part of an ongoing player protest against La Liga's plan to host a match in the United States. With the win, Real Madrid moves above defending champions Barcelona and now turn their attention to a Champions League showdown with Juventus on Wednesday. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may we be inspired with the words of the song. Humility and sincerity are what counts in the character of a man. And for a Christmas countdown, only 66 days to go before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.